Hey guys, and welcome to another update on the procedural city generator. I have a few cool things that I wanted to share with you guys, so let's take a quick look. On the last video, I shared the concept of completely different cities now by using different density zones and different, so you can see bounds here, city limits. So what I did is I extended that notion by adding some additional settings to the highways. And I added a new road type, which is a minor road, and a couple of other things. So the first thing we'll do is try to go ahead and get all of the zones again. And you'll see I even made the map even bigger. And instead of 3, now we have 5 different cities. The first thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and generate the highways. And you'll see here that we now have highways. Let me just go on to game mode here so you can see connecting all of the different cities. However, there's a potential problem, right? So basically every single city is connected to another city. But what happens in this mode if you want to go from this city to this city? There isn't a straight direct path, right? What you would have to do is you would have to go all the way here and then connect here and then go all the way here and connect here, and then from there you'll have to go there, which is fine, but I wanted to add another mode which makes sure that every single combination is included, right? So now if I go under highway settings, there's 2 different generation methods. There's the minimal, which is exactly what you saw, right? Every city is reachable from another city, right? And this keeps the number of highways relatively small. But you can go and do an inclusive generation method, which I think is probably going to be the default. And if I go ahead and regenerate the highways, you'll see that now their network is a lot more elaborate, right? And again, if you see from every single city, from every single density zone, you have a specific highway that goes into every city. So every single city has 4 different highways that connect every other city, and that's the case for every single city. So now if you had a massive map with a lot of different settlements or cities, right? These are cities, but they can be small settlements. Now you can automatically generate roads that connect to them automatically. And you can see here that this is the density zone here for this, and every single city now has a highway that connects every other city. So that's the first thing. It took me a little while to figure out the logic, so it didn't create additional roads. But now I kind of like the result here. This is probably the default. You want every single point of interest or city to be connected, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing I wanted to show you guys is this density zone spawn list. And this is really neat because one of the problems that I've had, even on my machine, which is pretty decent, is performance issues, right? If you're just doing one city, it's fairly quick. I have a 1070 GeForce 1070 with 16 gigs of RAM and a nice 7K as a processor. So definitely a pretty decent machine, but not a monster by any means. But now when you're going to 3, 4, 5 cities and you're trying to regenerate all of these roads and even worse, spawn all of those buildings at the same time, it bogs down and it even locks up the editor sometimes. So I added this handy list that is automatically generated based on how many zones you have. And now you can tick which specific zones you want to use to spawn your roads, right? So if I said, okay, well, let's go with this zone right here. This is density zone 2. We're going to just pick this one as an example here. You can see here is city limits 2, density zone 2, whatever. And I can go here to the road manager and I can say, okay, well, I only want to spawn things on density zone 2, right? So this is the only one ticked. And I go ahead and click on generate main roads. You'll see, and I'm going to click it a few times here, you'll see that it's only generating roads on this density zone, right? So I can go here and nothing is here and nothing is here, right? So this is just a way of focusing the road generation, and you'll see in a second here the spawn generation to one specific city at a time, right? Not only that, but now you can change the preset per city, right? So now we did main roads for this one. Now let's just go ahead and do main roads for this one, for example. And this is density zone 3. So if I go here and say, okay, well, road manager, I want you to now do density zone 3 only. But for the main roads, instead of organic, I want something like grid-like. And I hit on set presets, and I go and say generate main roads. And you'll see now that the roads are generated only in this city with this preset. So that's kind of the idea here, right? So let's go ahead and just generate the other 3. And I'm going to go back to organic because I kind of like the look. Set presets. And now I'm going to generate the roads, the main roads for all those 3 cities at the same time. So generate roads, generate roads, generate roads, generate roads. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. So now we have 4 cities that have the generic organic main rows, as you can see here, and 1 which is the odd dog here, which has the grid-like. Cool. The next interesting thing is that I've added minor roads, and we're going to do the exact same thing. So now we're going to stick to only density zone 2. And I'm going to generate minor roads. And actually, before I do that, so let's go back to minor roads, and we're going to use grid-like. Set the presets, and I'm going to generate minor roads. And this actually does take a while, so you can see here. There you go. Because it's a lot more roads, right? So this is the roads that would be more for residential use. And the standard would be to create roads that are more grid-like, right? So the highways are very organic. Even the main roads can be organic, but usually the residential roads are a lot more grid-like. You can see here. And again, because of sea fighting and the calling, it's kind of hard to show, but you can see the network here. So let's go back and generate the roads here, also grid-like. Minor roads. And it's taking a while. And look at this. So way more grid-like. So this is you know, more like a New York City type thing. Way more grids versus this, which is a lot more natural grid-like. So let's do something funky, and let's go and generate minor roads for 4. But let's go and change the settings from grid-like. Let's do default on number 3, or number 4 rather. Click minor roads. And which one was that? I think it was this one right here. Yep. This one right here. And you can see that the design is a little bit different. So let's again change it from default, and now let's go organic. And we're going to do organic for 4 and 5. Sorry, for 5 and 0. So again, set preset, generate minor roads. And you can see here that now the minor roads are now organic. And we'll do the same thing for this one here. Generate minor roads. All right, and grid-like, I think this is the one. Yep, you can see here that now the minor roads are a lot more organic, even doing something like this. So now, if you zoom out, you'll see that now we have 5 different cities that have 5 different designs, from main road configuration to minor road configuration, right? This is more grid-like, this is grid-like in some senses, this is fully organic, etc. Whoops, that's game mode. And if I add the next step, which is going to be the rural roads, which I think I'm going to change the name from rural to something like 1-lane road or something, then you can have even more customization. But let's just leave it as this for now. And now we're going to city generator, let's spawn some buildings, And let's start with number 2. And the same thing here. If I were to go ahead and get all of the roads, we're talking about 389 roads total. That would take a long time, right? So I did a way of filtering this, and I have a new utility that takes roads with a specific tag. And in this case, I want to get all of the roads only on density zone 2, which is going to be this area here. So instead of doing all rows, I say get rows with tag. And now we're going with 86 rows, which is way more manageable. And if I go quickly here, remember on a previous video I showed that every single zone you can select which buildings spawn in which types of roads, right? So commercial will spawn on all of the buildings. Industrial will spawn only on main and minor and rural, so no highways. And then residential, which is kind of the outskirts here, I only want residential areas to spawn houses on the minor roads and rural roads, right? That way, only houses will spawn on the yellow, right? So if I go back to city generator, and I got the roads from density zone 2, no spawning here, and I click on spawn buildings. It's gonna take a little while here. And there you go. And a full city with 3 different types of roads. And you can see my frame rate is absolutely ridiculous. So I'm going to convert the buildings to meshes. And I'm gonna zoom in here. And you can see now that the buildings are spawning correctly. Minor roads only have industrial and residential, and these roads here, all out here, only have houses, right? And the highways don't have anything, right, as I was explaining. So here's one city. You can see kind of the city center there. And we can go ahead and do the same. Let's just do this one right here. I'm not gonna do all of them. This is number 3, just for the sake of keeping things moving. I don't want to make the video too long. I know I tend to ramble a little bit too long, make these videos too long. So let's go ahead, and city number 2 had 86 roads. City number 3 has, let's see, 155. All right, so a lot more because there's grids. So okay, so let's save just in case and generate city number 3. All right. And it's taking a little while because again it has so many buildings here. So spawn buildings, and again it takes a little while. You can see here that it's kind of locked up, and there we go. Fully realized city, grid-like, more like a New York City type thing. And notice that in this side there is nothing because only highways were generated here, and we don't generate anything on the highways. And again, that's a setting. So let's go back and convert the buildings to meshes. And go to game mode, and now you see that now we have a fully realized city that has a lot more houses. I mean, this is kind of ridiculous. You can change the spacing, but now you have a much more believable cityscape, right? You have a massive downtown, then you have kind of the industrial area here, and then the outskirts, we're talking about these cities here. So let me go ahead and save, and we'll just walk around a little bit. I made my pawn super fast, you know, obviously ridiculously fast, and this is just so I can traverse the cities, you know, walk around and see what the city is like. Otherwise, it would just be kind of impossible. But just to give you a sense of scale, I mean, even going, I think the speed I have now for sprint, let me just check as soon as this is done. The sprint speed is 50,000 units, right? Normally that would be something like 1200, right? So if I just kind of drop here, just maximize, and you can see that my frame rate is still pretty good now. At the ground level is 120 frames per second. You can see I'm going, again, really, really fast. My frame rate is still very, very high. And again, you can see that I'm not seeing any errors with the spawning so far. It can get a little funky. Let me see. And you can see the interiors. Everything again is fully enterable. Whoops, you see maybe this is a little error here with the buildings. Nope, but they're very, very close. So you have to be careful with the spawning. But you can see that we have, again, a fully realized city. And this city is, again, very much grid-like. Let's go in here and see things spawn. Knock them out. And we're just gonna quickly go around here just to take a quick look at the city. All right. And let's go to the next city real quick. So this is one, and this is the other one here. So let's just kind of drop here. And again, if you followed this highway, you would obviously connect that city with this one. So that's the grid-like city. And this is the other one here. Kind of went the wrong way, huh? Yeah, let's just kind of drop here. And again, in this case, you can see that this city is not perfectly in a grid, but it has more subtle curves. So it's still pretty blocky, but the curves are a bit more subtle, right? So in this case, you would have the houses here, and again, the interior is only spawning when you get close. So, which is why we can maintain 120 frames per second, more or less, as we're going very, very fast across the city. I'm just going to jump here and go downtown. So while I give you the tour, I was hoping to show you the new prop spawning system, and I have it mostly working. Unfortunately, I still have some bugs that are basically resulting in almost an infinite loop. As I'm going through each individual street and trying to spawn things like street lights and things like that, which of course are very, very dense, right? For a street like this, imagine, you want to spawn a street light every 1,000 units or 2,000 units, and I need to figure out a better way of doing that, which is why I don't think it's worth it for me to show it right now, because it's still very, very inefficient and kind of buggy. So we're gonna have to hold up on that. I'm gonna see if I can work on improvements, and then that will probably be the next video showing you the prop system, which I think it's even in its current form is pretty neat. So yeah, this is what I have for today. Better highway network now connecting every single city. You now can spawn buildings and rows on a per city level. Again, that helps with performance. I mean, even now with instant static meshes, you can see that my performance is absolutely terrible because there's just so much in the level. So realistically, you might have to break this down into streaming levels, right? You can still generate your cities, but break them down into different streaming levels just to alleviate your performance in a real game. But yeah, what do you guys think? And this took me, I don't know how long it took me, but this took me what, 10-15 minutes, and I was able to generate 2 full cities with interiors with different designs automatically connected through highways. And hopefully by next week, when I can figure out what's going on with the prop spawning and the foliage, which I had to change based on these new things, you'll be able to then fully populate your city with foliage and convert them into meshes, into instance meshes. I have an easy way of creating little parks So if you're trying to do something like this and have like a nice little park in the middle, you'll be able to do that with a zone. And then props are going to be two types: fixed, things that always appear at a set distance like light poles or fire hydrants. And I also have a separate system for random props, things that only appear on a specific percent chance. And you'll be able to specify that, right? Things like maybe even a parked car. I was testing with parked cars, bus stops, trash cans, things like that I'm testing. So I can't wait to show you that. And when I do, then we'll be able to go from nothing, from a completely empty level to full-blown cities with buildings, interiors, props, and foliage, all by going through this process in just a couple of minutes, which I'm really, really excited. That was my original idea. And then from there on, it's all a matter of optimization and adding little touches. And if you guys can think of anything else that you think would be useful, please do let me know. Again, this is still fairly early, but any new features that you guys would think would be useful, this is the time to let me know. So anyway, that's it for today. Thank you guys so much. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot.